Anxiety, insomnia affect nearly 70 million Americans every year. And research suggests sleep deprivation can actually cause anxiety disorders. But also, anxiety can cause sleep disorders. It's like the chicken or the egg, and it's a vicious cycle. I've personally struggled with both to the point where I was seriously contemplating medication. But before giving in to meds, I opted to try CBD, specifically NEDS. NED's full spectrum CBD tincture is certified 100% organic, it's outdoor grown and cold extracted, which means no harmful pesticides or chemicals are involved in the growing or extraction process, creating a pure, highly effective tincture full of all the cannabinoids without making you high. NED has been a part of my life for over 2 years strong because 1, it actually helps, and 2, NED is fully transparent about everything that goes into all their products. They do third-party lab testing in every batch and number each batch sold. Their slow cold extraction process does take more time than other CBD companies, and they know that they may not be producing as much as fast as the other guys. But I personally prefer that over other brands that just want to pump out product left and right. That's what makes NED truly different from all the rest. That's why I highly recommend NED for anyone suffering with anxiety or sleep deprivation. It truly does work. Become the best version of yourself and get 15% off NED products with code DIGEST. Go to helloned.com/digest or enter code DIGEST at checkout. That's helloned.com/digest. helloned.com/digest and get 15% off. Thank you, NED, for sponsoring this part of the show and offering my listeners a natural remedy for some of life's most common health issues. If you're not subscribed to my newsletters, they come out every Friday and they're called Friday Finds. This is information that only my subscribers get in their inbox. I share stuff like non-toxic air fryers and kitchen appliances, new food finds, product recalls, food news, and food products that aren't even on the market yet, but I've got the scoop. This is not published anywhere else and cannot be found on my blog. So be sure you're in the know and subscribe to my weekly newsletters by going to littlesipper.com/subscribe and enter your email. That's all you have to do. So go to LILSIPPER.com/subscribe to get exclusive information on everything food. Could this ingredient be hindering your health and altering your diet? That is what we're talking about in today's Bite of Knowledge. Welcome back to this week's episode of Digest This. And every Monday we come out with mini episodes called Bites of Knowledge, where I give you some information that will probably make you a bit smarter than your friends. And today we are talking about this particular ingredient that is in so many, quote, health foods, but could actually be hindering your health and health goals. But before we get into today's episode, I wanted to give a shout out to podcast listener Haley1919. She titles her review life-changing. She writes, as someone who heavily struggles with binge eating and body dysmorphia, this podcast has done more than help me in creating a healthier lifestyle inside and out. I thank Bethany for being so real and always providing accurate information for the benefit of her followers. It truly is refreshing and has changed my life in more ways than one. I will always be a loyal follower and listener of this podcast as long as I live. Wow. Thank you so much, Haley, for writing that wonderful review. And I always love reading all your reviews and always welcome them. It truly does help the podcast get out into more ears and into more lives ultimately, and hopefully change more lives in doing so in the process. So again, thank you so much for that. And if you haven't done so, please pause this episode right now. It takes 2 seconds and submit your rating and review. Again, I always appreciate your support. So this ingredient, maltodextrin, I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure you've read it on food labels and probably not even questioned what it really is because it's so common. So what is it? So maltodextrin is a white powder that is relatively tasteless and dissolves in water. It is an additive in a wide range of foods, and it can improve the food's texture, flavor, and shelf life. That's why so many companies add it to their products. It is possible to make maltodextrin from any starchy food, and the majority of maltodextrin in products today are made from mostly corn, but other common sources are from potato, wheat, tapioca, and rice. And although the powder comes from these natural, quote, natural products, it undergoes severe processing and is extremely altered. So how is it made? Well, manufacturers put starch through a process called hydrolysis, which uses water, enzymes, and acids to break the starch into smaller pieces, resulting in a white powder consisting of sugar molecules. So keep in mind, people with food allergies, especially celiac disease, should be aware that maltodextrin can contain traces of gluten when wheat is in the source of the starch. However, according to the Beyond Celiac charity, maltodextrin is, quote, gluten-free as long as the ingredients list does not include the word wheat. That's a little sketchy if you ask me. There's a lot of loopholes right there. And in edible products such as protein powders, bars, chips, drink mixes, baked goods, cereals, etc., other snack items, right? This powder can help, quote, help by thickening foods or liquids to help bind the ingredients together. It can improve the texture and or flavor of the product. It can help to preserve foods and increase their shelf life, which in my opinion is not a good thing to increase the shelf life. And it can also be a replacement for sugar or fat in low-calorie processed foods such as peanut butter and sugar-free desserts. However, maltodextrin is far from sugar-free. After it's been processed, maltodextrin results as a very easy to digest carbohydrate and can provide energy rapidly. Due to this fact, manufacturers add this powder to many sports drinks and snacks. Unfortunately, many people eat maltodextrin every single day without realizing it, multiple times a day, in fact. And as just stated, many snack foods contain it, but in addition, maltodextrin can be found in pasta and pre-cooked ready-to-eat rice, many meat substitutes, baked goods and treats, salad dressings, frozen meals, soups, sugars and sugar alternatives even, and of course, energy and sports drinks, and also protein bars, protein powders, crackers, chips, and yes, the so-called, quote, healthy versions. So even, like I said, like even protein powders and powdered dairy and non-dairy coffee creamers have it. So you may ask, is it safe? Well, according to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, maltodextrin is a GRAS, which is generally recognized as a safe food additive. But note, they state it's a food additive, and that right there is a red flag, food additive. But even though the FDA has approved maltodextrin, that doesn't mean it's healthy. And in fact, research has linked maltodextrin with possible health risks, including Well, before I just say a list of things, I want to go into what the health risks individually and a little bit in more detail. So first of all, let's talk about diabetes. So maltodextrin and diabetes. Now, the maltodextrin's glycemic index, it actually has an even higher glycemic index than table sugar, you guys. So this means that maltodextrin can cause a sharp spike in people's blood sugar shortly after they eat foods that contain it. And sadly, they are unaware of the cause of the spike because the term maltodextrin doesn't jump out for people looking for sugar sources. And for those that don't know, a high glycemic index means that the sugars in the foods will quickly enter the bloodstream where the body will absorb them. In contrast, complex carbohydrates such as fruit, beans, and rice, they're more healthful because the body absorbs them slowly. This makes people feel full and for an extended period of time. But because maltodextrin is so refined, it just doesn't give any kind of fullness and it absorbs very, very quickly as opposed to whole foods. Let's talk about the gut bacteria and how maltodextrin affects that. So evidence suggests that maltodextrin may affect the balance of gut bacteria, which of course play an important role in people's health today. People who consume maltodextrin may have a reduced number of good bacteria and an increased quantity of harmful bacteria. This could potentially lead to intestine damage and a higher risk of inflammatory bowel diseases. Studies have shown that maltodextrin increases the activity of E. coli bacteria, which may have a role in the development of the inflammatory bowel disease known as Crohn's disease. Another study has linked maltodextrin to the survival of Salmonella bacteria, which may cause gastrointestinal issues, as of course we all know, and a broad range of chronic inflammatory conditions. A recent study suggested that maltodextrin may also compromise the ability of cells to respond to bacteria. It could also suppress intestine defense mechanisms against them, leading to intestinal disorders. So the way maltodextrin affects the gut is huge, you guys. I mean, we all know gut health is so important. And even if maltodextrin had great benefits here and there, which I still have yet to see any, I guess you could say, confirmation of benefits from maltodextrin besides its, prolonging shelf life of food. The way it affects the gut bacteria is just crazy huge. And for that reason alone, I feel like we should stay away from it. But there are additional reasons we should stay away from it, which I'll get into next. And that is allergies and intolerances. So maltodextrin may also cause a rash or skin irritation, as well as asthma, cramping, or difficulty breathing. The primary sources of maltodextrin will be corn, rice, or potato, but manufacturers may sometimes use wheat, as previously mentioned. Again, people with celiac disease or gluten intolerance should definitely be aware of that. Although the production process will remove most of the protein components, maltodextrin derived from wheat may still contain some gluten. This is just all so confusing, and there's just so many loopholes, especially when you have a food intolerance or allergy. So there's such a gray area here. Now, I want to quickly touch on weight loss. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, it may be a good idea to avoid maltodextrin as it is technically sugar. And we all know, or at least we should know, that sugar is a huge, if not the main attribute to weight gain among other diseases. Now, if you're wondering about GMOs, genetically modified corn is a common source of maltodextrin, which I have, again, previously stated. So GMOs are harmful to the environment and our own health because of the increased use of herbicides and pesticides on GMO crops. And ultimately, trickling down and into our own food supply. In 2009, some food scientists noted that food DNA can survive as far as the gut, and there have been concerns that this could affect our immune system. Some people have also raised fears that eating GMO foods could lead to genetic changes in humans. And in 2009, some researchers suggested that GMO foods might impact the liver, kidney, pancreas, and reproductive system. Now, with all the negativity about maltodextrin, you would think companies would stop the use and look for alternatives. But because of maltodextrin's low cost and easy access, why look for alternatives when the general public is not even aware or concerned with it in their food, right? So are there any benefits to maltodextrin? Well, maltodextrin is a cheap and effective food product that can improve the texture, taste, and shelf life of foods. Okay, we've made that clear. That is the quote benefit, but that's it. But in fact, get this. There are actually some athletes and people who want to gain muscle or body weight that actually use products containing maltodextrin to do so. So they actually, if they're trying to gain body weight or muscle or whatever, they're athletes, they actually look for food products containing maltodextrin to help put on the pounds. However, in my own personal opinion, if you're trying to gain weight, there are better and more healthful ways to do that than consuming maltodextrin, which has, of course, other side effects and downfalls we literally just went over. Okay, so now that you are more aware and have a better understanding on what maltodextrin really is, would you consume it or products containing it? I encourage you to raid your pantry or go to the grocery store and simply look at your favorite products to see if they contain this ingredient. And if you've already been an advocate to steer clear of maltodextrin and have been shamed or made fun of for it, just share this episode with those people to help them better understand why you choose not to partake. That's the great thing about podcasts, you guys. You don't have to be the annoying one. I get to do that on your behalf. Thanks for sharing this episode with your friends and family, and for all your support with the Digest This podcast, as well as your support on my Instagram at Little Sipper. I'll see you guys this Wednesday for an interview you don't want to miss. Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Chris McCone. To email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.